A&M bought every player on their team.
We never bought anybody. No rules were broken. Nothing was done wrong.
All right, we didn't buy one player. All right, but I don't know if we're going to be able to sustain that in the future because more and more people are doing it.
It's the second time we've had to do this with grown men who don't get their way and want to pout, throw a fit, and act up. Just go ask all the people who work for him. You'll know exactly what he's about. I always said this. My dad always told me this. When people show you who they are, believe them. He's showing you who he is. It's disgusting to what we're into right now, especially by the people who are throwing the darts, who have no glass in their house.
Mama and Daddy are fighting in the SEC. Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher going after each other, whatever you want to call it. This is a divorce. They're not going to be friends anymore, at least for the time being. They'll reconcile in their retirement. But Jimbo Fisher going after Nick Saban, after Nick Saban went after Texas A&M and said that Texas A&M bought every player this past recruiting class with the hope of NIL. Texas A&M, of course, had the #1 recruiting class in all of college football history, according to the 24/7 Sports Composite. Nick Saban does not like the way college football is going with NIL. He has made no secret of that over the last few months. He says this is not a sustainable model, that at some point it's going to fall in on itself. And people have criticized him for it, including Jimbo Fisher, who is not only upset that Nick came straight after the Aggies, but also because in the past, Saban's been poo-pooing on the NIL situation and saying that it could lead to things that are not quote unquote above board. But as Jimbo and others will probably tell you, nothing has ever been quite above board in college sports, really in any business and in our lives. There's always shady things going on. But let's go to the genesis of all this. And I want to give you guys a little bit of a history lesson. Some of you know this already, of course. The first thing I thought about when Saban was bringing up NIL and how that wasn't a sustainable model just a few months ago, and then again this week when he was going after Jimbo, I thought about 8 years ago, maybe it was 7 years ago. I was sitting in a small room in West Georgia. I can't remember the town. It was before a coaches convention with a bunch of high school coaches in West Georgia. And Saban came in to talk to a handful of reporters who made the trek there to talk to him and some other coaches. And he came in prepared to go on a rant. He came in and a colleague asked him a question. It was a hot topic about player safety, because he and Brett Bielema and a couple of others in the coaching industry were upset with hurry up, no huddle offenses, which were really becoming the hot thing then, and how they believed it wasn't giving defenses the ability to substitute players in time, and it was leading to more player injuries. Of course, there was no data behind that, but that's what they believed, and they wanted some rules changed. So Saban went on I think it was about 7-minute rant, which is funny because his last rant the other day about NIL was about 7 minutes. I guess he's just got the timing down perfectly, huh? So he went on this rant about it and was pretty much saying, and he ended up saying later, is this what we want college football to be? This NIL rant is very similar. Nick Saban, to me, is that guy in your office who just complains about work all the time. But he's also the best worker in the office. He's been employee of the month every single month this year. And that at some point he's going to have to stop and get with the program. And when he does, he's going to kill it. He's going to continue to be the best employee there. But he will continue to complain because he knows he can complain, because he is a powerful voice in that office and will be able to either get what he wants, or in the end, those empty threats will just be empty and he'll adjust and end up still doing a great job. That's how Saban is. He has his own ways of doing things, the old ways, and he wants things to stay the way they are because they've been beneficial to him. They've been beneficial for him and for Alabama. So you go back 7-8 years ago, hurry up, no huddle offenses were taking the country by storm, and everybody's doing it now, but back then not everybody was, especially Alabama, because they're still playing murder ball on offense. And Saban was struggling against Ole Miss and Hugh Freeze's offense, and he was struggling against Auburn and Gus Malzahn. In fact, Auburn had just beaten Alabama in 2013 for Alabama to be sent home and Auburn go to the SEC championship and later the BCS national championship. So Saban saw a sea change coming, and he didn't want to change himself, and he wanted to stay the way things were because that's been very successful for him. Well, he didn't get the rule changes he wanted. So what does he do? He adjusted. He got no hurry up, no huddle offense of his own. Got guys like Lane Kiffin and Steve Sarkisian to run his offense, and the rest is history. They joined the party, and Alabama continued to get the best players and best coaches, and they killed everybody on the field with their new version of the hurry up, no huddle offense. Does he do that again in the NIL era? He says Alabama is not really setting up NIL deals. They're not really bending any rules with all this, that the players are earning money through NIL deals after they get on campus and they're earning their way. They're not getting, not being enticed to come to Alabama with NIL deals like as he alleges that Texas A&M and other schools are doing. Will he adjust? Because listen, there's no rules really going to be made or really be enforced that are going to change things. NIL's here to stay. Players will continue to pick schools partially because of some of these NIL deals being set up outside some of these schools. Will he adjust? I think Saban will have to. And if he doesn't, then he'll just retire and call it a career. But history tells me he's going to adjust and he's going to start playing the game that everybody else is playing, that everybody's adjusted to. And Alabama will continue to kill everybody in doing so. But that won't happen until they adjust. And I think Saban will adjust quickly to all this. And this war of words or whatever it'll settle down. It'll heat back up in the behind the scenes because Alabama will pick things up with NIL and they'll continue to get number 1, number 2 recruiting classes. But until that happens, schools like Texas A&M are going to continue to rise. And listen, no one's right, no one's wrong in this battle of words, in this war of words between Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban. To act like, that Jimbo Fisher doesn't quite know what's going on with the NIL collectives around Texas A&M is ludicrous. He might want to act like he doesn't know, or at least shut his eyes to it and just have no peripheral vision with it. It's like, don't tell me, listen, I'm not asking about, don't tell me about what's going on, but it's happening. And, coaches across the SEC, administrators across the SEC that I've talked to today via text and on the phone, they know this is all going on with NIL collectives, that's helped Texas A&M in recruiting, and it's helped other schools like Miami, for example, and also Florida. But A&M, give them credit. This isn't all because of NIL that they've been successful in the recruiting trail. They've been in the top 6 recruiting, top 4 recruiting every year Jimbo Fisher's been there on campus at College Station. And in fact, they had circled the year 2022 on their recruiting calendar as their year to potentially have the number 1 recruiting class. And this was all before NIL. NIL just juiced that up. It just helped them. And Texas A&M business leaders tied to the school there saw this coming with NIL, and they were well prepared for it. A lot of money being able to be spent with NIL collectives. How much money is that? It's probably not that $30 million figure that's been thrown around on the internet and all that stuff, but it's enough. And they were well organized and they got it done. Other schools are doing the same. When I say schools, it's these NIL collectives that aren't directly tied to these schools. So again, Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher can both be right and they can both be wrong. But to act like that there is a right side to all this, there isn't. It is what it is. NIL is what it is. Players are getting paid and they will continue to get paid. The toothpaste is out of the tube. I hate saying that cliche, but it is. They're not going to be able to put it back in. And nor probably should they. Players are finally getting the money they want. And at some point, the market will level itself out. You know, these $8 million deals you've been hearing about with one recruit who just chose a school of quarterback, those things, you're not going to see many of those. In fact, you probably won't see another $8 million deal unless it's just a surefire thing with a player. A lot of these guys, a lot of these business owners, these collectives, they're going to get burned by players. They're not going to turn out the way they wanted to, or they're going to want to leave the school that they cheer for. And they're going to be a little bit more hesitant in the future of giving out big paydays to some of these players for NIL deals, whether it's sponsorships or whatever. So the market will correct itself, but players will continue to get paid, and the great players will get paid a lot of money, and the lesser players just won't. And schools will have to adjust to that. Some, like Texas A&M, did so and did so brilliantly. Alabama, not so much, because Nick Saban wanted to keep things the way they were, because that's what was working for him. But at some point, Saban's got to decide to either adjust and become part of the new school or stay in the old school and end up retiring. Listen, he's in his 70s already. But history tells me he's going to see his contract through for the next 8 years or however long it is. And he's going to adjust, and Alabama's going to continue to be on top. So what's this all mean? It's very entertaining right now, this war of words. As substantive as it seems that these words are, when Jimbo Fisher's just lashing out Nick Saban, called him a god twice, and called him a narcissist once, and called him despicable 6 times in a span of 3 minutes during his opening comments. For all of that, Jimbo Fisher said, hey, ask anybody that's worked for Nick Saban how he does his business behind the scenes. And you'll see why Jimbo Fisher never went back and worked for Nick Saban, even though he had other opportunities.
Some people think they're God. Go dig into how God did his deal. You may find out about a guy that a lot of things you don't want to know. We built him up to be the czar of football. Go dig into his past, or anybody that's ever coached with him. You can find out anything you want to find out, what he does and how he does it. And it's despicable.
Why be vague about that when you are going all in on Nick Saban? Give us evidence and say it. Don't tell people to go look into it or go look at this and that other people will tell you. If you're going to stand on your soapbox and go after the greatest coach of all time and throw his entire legacy under the bus, you better have some evidence. If you're going to come at the king, you best not miss, man. I'm sure Nick Saban did not appreciate that. Listen, they're not going to be friends probably until they retire. It'll always smooth over. But listen, you better have some evidence. The same with Nick Saban when he's coming at Texas A&M the way he did. That's why Jimbo went off the way he did, because he felt like he was being accused of cheating when he doesn't believe he has been cheating. But at no point really did anybody say they were cheating. Nick Saban was to Jimbo Fisher. But Jimbo Fisher now is alleging that Nick Saban has been a cheater in his past, and yet isn't even giving any examples or saying exactly what. He's telling reporters and others to go look into it. Come on, guys. Be a little bit more mature about this. And if you're going to come at each other, at least have some evidence and back it up. It's entertaining. It is what it is. Listen, they're both right. They're both wrong. But to me, the big story here is, does Nick Saban adjust like he did 7-8 years ago with hurry up, no huddle offenses? Or is he just at this point in his career where he's like, you know what? I don't want to put up with this. I'm going to go walk off in the sunset.